Thanks for joining us again today on our ClearStream On-Board feature-focused webinar. My name is Howie Heckman. I'm one of the developers here at PTS. I'm going to go through a live demonstration of the product to kind of show you guys how it works, how you guys can all set it up. But before that, I'm going to introduce Tom Banta, the head of product and business development here at PTS, who's going to go through some of the housekeeping of ClearStream RFID, what it is, just kind of an overview, roadmap, and things like that. So with that, I'll kick it over to him, Tom, and when you're all set, we'll go through a live demonstration.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. So we really appreciate you all joining. And as we, Howie, if you're still there, if you don't mind advancing the screen there. So we really appreciate you joining, and we're excited about some of the new features that Howie's going to be joining you here. Is Howie's been with PTS, gosh, 15, 16 years, something like that. Really the anchor behind the ClearStream product. So I think we'll have a great session here today. I think briefly we'll walk through just kind of what's ClearStream RFID, and specifically the onboard feature, where some of the new features that Howie and his team put together will be showing you today, as well as just give you a little insight into some of the things that we're going to be doing with ClearStream over the course of 2023. Kind of the work Howie's going to be showing you today is some big feature enhancements that we put into place towards the latter part of last year, and very excited to be able to get that launched for you. As a side note, follow us on social media. If you're not already, there are lots of good opportunities to postings on YouTube and LinkedIn for all the exciting things, not only going on with ClearStream, but also with PTS, as well as Tracer Plus, our mobile product. So we look forward to keeping you up to date on everything going on with us there. So if you're new to PTS, not familiar with portable technology solutions, just as a little background for you. Number one, we're, company's been in business about 20 years. So started with the Tracer Plus product as a way to have a rapid application development tool back in 2000 for barcode reading, and then really been in with ClearStream, the RFID world for the last 10 to 12 years. So, whether it's RFID, barcode, BLE, NFC, we've got a set of products that really solve the whole IoT world out there that everybody's kind of facing right now, whether you're implementing these on your own or whether you're getting some pressure from some of your business partners to implement RFID or other IoT type solutions. In addition, we've got a product called PTS Cloud that is really a great kind of data management tool that allows kind of a central repository out in the cloud for you to sync your data, whether you've got one warehouse or you've got warehouses all over the world, or you've got asset tracking mechanisms that you've got all over the world. PTS Cloud's a great solution, kind of be a data aggregation point as well as an integration point into your back office systems. So go into really what's ClearStream RFID. It really is software to kind of make it very easy for you to configure and manage a network of fixed RFID readers. All that can be done, remotely, single console. As you go into, as Howie will show you, your ability to kind of go in and see the status of all your readers. Are they up, are they down? What's the latest version of that? It supports, all the different protocols, UHF, LF, RFID, BLE beacons, really lots of the Zebra and Impinj readers. So we're very excited of everything going on there. We've probably all seen lots of publicity around the RAIN Alliance, and we're members of the RAIN Alliance, and really see the focus on RFID is really gathering steam. In our business, just in the last couple of years, where barcode for many years was kind of a heavy focus for customers, now the RFID has really become a bigger and bigger focus for people as they look at different ways to use RFID to solve different sorts of business problems. So the big part of ClearStream really is track your tagged items, whether it's inventory, it's assets, kind of anytime, anywhere. It's within a fixed space. It could be out in the open. You know, RFID with fixed readers and with ClearStream really gives you a lot of capability to kind of be creative in how you want to, what you want to tag and how you want to track it. So it's movement. It's, you know, we'll talk a little bit about just tracking assets and people. One of the projects we've been working on quite a bit really talks to, you know, tracking expensive assets that people might have on their person as they move around a facility, and being ensured that on shift changes, or if somebody's leaving a facility, then in fact we just ensure that those devices are put back into the locations so that they're available for the next shift. Easy to confirm order fulfillment. As we all know, RFID is a very good solution as things go in and out of a facility, but you know, you've got orders, you might have 10, 100,000 items going out the door, multiple pallets, makes it very easy to kind of do order fulfillment confirmation on that, as well as business resiliency. And one of the big features Howie will talk to today is the ability to kind of have those readers up and running, whether they're online or offline from a network perspective. So just because you might have a blip in your network doesn't mean that your business stops running. And very excited about all the capabilities that these readers can continue to operate under, even if you're not connected to the network. Collect tags when the network's back up, the ability to kind of reconnect, move those records back into your central repository and just keep right on running. It ensures kind of easy data integration with your back office system, especially with the PTS Cloud that I mentioned, and really the time to benefit. We really tout that at PTS. You know, we really look at how do we get your systems up and running literally within hours. You know, connect your readers, connect your antennas, start testing, and really be able to get those systems up and going. As we talk about the roadmap, we're excited to be bringing on board the some Impinj set of readers in the first quarter of this year, probably sooner versus later in the quarter, but we're really, you know, that heavy development and testing is going on with that right now. So as we all know, that's a very big product, especially with folks in the RAIN Alliance. We're looking to expand our open API with the PTS Cloud and offer even more back office integration capabilities to make that easier for folks to, whether you want to move data from your back office systems onto a device so that you're checking, or so to make that kind of unilateral direction capability for you. As well, one of the things customers have been asking us for is they create configurations, they create settings, whether it's on ClearStream or Tracer Plus. How do we share those applications and the knowledge better really across the community? You know, we've got, you know, coming up on nearly 9,000 customers of our products around the world. So there's lots of different use cases out there in terms of how people are using ClearStream and Tracer Plus. And we're really working in the early stages there of how we create an open marketplace where people can share those success stories with the broader community and make it easier, even easier for our customers to get up and live running quickly. So let's talk a little bit about what's ClearStream On-Board. And that's really the focus of this presentation, really is to have the ability to put configuration settings on a reader, even if the network is sporadically updated. Maybe it's literally an old-fashioned kind of dial-up line. We have someone using a Starlink connection as an example to literally beam updates back and forth. But On-Board really provides operational resiliency to you and gives you enormous flexibility to put readers where they may not have the best network connectivity. It works with all of our fixed RFID network readers, and really based on schedule sends data back and forth. So you can be very flexible on how you want that data to get aggregated, when you want to, in essence, call home and have that data, synchronized back to your back office systems. We've put some unique read optimization logic into this system so that obviously if you're offline and you're collecting tags, that you're going to read the same tag multiple times. So we want to ensure that you're not duplicating and sending duplicate tag record information back to your back office system. So we've got some very exciting ways that we're handling that to ensure you don't get duplicate records. Control endpoints, configuration settings, everything is OTA, and really unique to ClearStream is kind of the web console that we'll show you today gives you that access to all your readers, status, when they've been up, when they've been down, which ones are going to be internet enabled, which ones are connected to some type of other smartphone or desktop device, and all that can be controlled, whenever or wherever your staff might need access to a particular reader or a problem that you might be having with a reader. So look for the release soon. It's been out in the field, and we're wrapping up testing and everything on that now. So we expect to have that here out shortly. So some of the problems, just in summary, that we're trying to solve with On-Board is, really great benefits for the IT managers or folks managing these devices in a large number of distributed locations. So as I mentioned, even if the network's down, ability if you don't have UPS backup for those devices, the auto restart capabilities on if you have a power blip, and the ability to check on readers kind of anywhere, anytime. It seems like these things always can tend to have issues at odd times of the day, but obviously our console is available wherever somebody might have access to go online and check and update a reader. The hardware resiliency and business continuity is always key. The big focus on On-Board is about ensuring that your operations keep running, even if some of the network issues surrounding those locations may not be as reliable. So this is all about business continuity and resiliency for your deployment. Simple to use. Everything is plug and play. We like to say it acts as a plug and play device. Once again, this is about getting you up and going quickly within hours, not days, weeks, or months. So with that, I'll turn it over to Howie, and we'll walk through the presentation. If you have questions, write down your question on the GoToMeeting, and we'll have a debrief at the end where we go through your questions, and we have to go back in and show you more examples within the software itself. We'll obviously be doing that as well. So thank you again for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Howie.
Great, thank you, Tom. Thank you very much for all the information there, all good stuff. So again, my name is Howie Heckman. Thanks again, everyone, for joining the webinar today to go through kind of a deep dive into ClearStream On-Board. One of the things I actually just wanted to mention on the slides before, it did say that the software is soon to be released. That's actually just the latest version of the ClearStream On-Board application. There's some new features we've added at the end of last year that are going to be released to the site shortly. So the product is available. You can get it today. You can get it as we're talking through the demonstration if you'd like, but the latest release will be uploaded to our website soon. So with that, let me hop out of the PowerPoint here and kind of talk a little bit about ClearStream On-Board. So the first thing I'd like to just kind of mention is that everything I show you today here is actually available for free trial. So if you take a look at the software and you want to set everything up yourselves, you can go to our ClearStreamRFID.com website. Just go up to the free download section and you can download the software. Now you can download both the ClearStream RFID for Windows application that Tom was talking about first. That is our Windows application, server-based, that allows you to configure and map fixed RFID readers to pre-existing databases or systems. That's free to try as well. You can download that to a Windows-based PC and go ahead and install that software. And you can also download the ClearStream On-Board application, which is the application that I'll demonstrate today that runs directly on the reader itself, adds support for that network resiliency, distributed type setups, and also the managed configuration through the ClearStream RFID web portal. So you can get both of those versions of the software, and you can trial everything you'd like by just going to ClearStreamRFID.com and just click up on the free download section there. You just fill out a form and you can download the software. So once you do that, actually, I'll just mention that when you download the ClearStream On-Board application, you'll get a DEB file, and that's the file that we're going to install on the reader, and I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. Now, a couple of things here. I have my ClearStream RFID web portal. It's at subscriptions.clearstreamrfid.com. I'm going to log into my account so you can see what you would be starting with your ClearStream RFID onboard application. So once you sign up for a trial or purchase the application, you'll have access to the portal here at subscriptions.clearstreamrfid.com, and you can go ahead and log in. Now, when you log in to start, you won't have anything configured here. So this is the dashboard. It shows you all of the activity of your readers, the status of your readers, the current configurations and everything. And you can see right now in my account, I don't have any readers added and no activity. I haven't done anything yet to get a device set up within this application. However, I do have an FX9600 that I've plugged into my network. So you could imagine maybe in your environment, you have an FX9600, you have a ClearStream subscriptions account here, and you want to get up and running. So you just go ahead and access the portal for the reader. So when you plug these readers in, they have a web configuration tool that's provided by Zebra or the manufacturer that you're using. And just like kind of your home Wi-Fi router, you can log into it using a web browser to configure the reader. So we're going to use that to install the application so that it comes online in our web portal. But to start, I want to add this reader to my account. So to do that, what I do is I log in again and I go to View Users and Devices. So right now on the View Users Devices form, all I really have is my information here. I'm the admin of this account. I can go ahead and make my configuration changes here and add users or devices to this list. So to add a device, I simply need to come to this form and hit Add New Device and just enter the MAC address of the reader that I want to configure. So I can get this MAC address from the box of the reader or log in and see it and just hit Save. So now I have one device added, this MAC address to my portal. If I go to my dashboard, you'll actually see that there's a device added to the devices section here, but still no information other than that device ID. So I've added one device. There's no activity with it, but it's ready to go as far as the web portal is concerned. So the next thing I need to do is install the ClearStream On-Board application on the reader so that it phones home to this web console here and then connects up with the cloud portal. So to do that, again, I'm going to go over to this Zebra configuration tool. I'm going to log into my device. Now, this is the configuration utility for the Zebra, in this case, FX9600, and it really just allows you to do all things on the reader itself, like configure date times, IP addresses, and things like that. The one important thing for us is to jump over to this Applications link here. So if I go to Applications, this is where I'm going to install ClearStream On-Board on our reader. So to do that, I simply click the Browse button here. I select that file that I downloaded from our website. So this here is the latest version, and click Install. So this is going to install the ClearStream On-Board application. I now have it on my device. It's not yet currently running, but you can see I have ClearStream On-Board. I have the latest version here. It's not yet started, and it's also not set to auto start. So a couple things about this. To start the application up, you just hit this red circle. It'll go green to start. If you need to stop it for any reason, you would click it again and it'll go back to red. There's an auto start checkbox here, though, that's important. This will automatically start this application whenever it comes back online, or whenever it's powered up, really. So what's good about this is it makes the application plug and play. So if you are an IT manager setting these readers up and you need to then ship them to another facility, bring them out to another location at the current facility you're at, you would just have the auto start to set to true here, or checked off, and then start the application, so that when the person receiving this that's going to install the application at that location, all they need to do is plug the device in, and it's going to come online. So I'm going to go ahead and start this application up. It'll go to green here, and now I have ClearStream RFID on-board running on this FX9600. And really what it's doing here is it's booting up and it's going to start reaching out to the web console to download its configuration settings. So if I go back over to the web console here, this reader will come online. Now it could take a couple of minutes here to come online, but essentially that reader is starting up, logging into the web console. As long as it has internet access to the portal here, it's going to go ahead and bring that access up and come online. So we'll be able to see the status of that reader once it comes online. Now, while that comes online, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the different options on the dashboard here. At the top section here, you have the login history from all of your devices. So you'll see how often all of the devices are logging into the web portal over the course of some length of time. So you'll see the activity of those readers. On the right-hand side, you'll see when this thing logs in, you'll see a pie chart pop up so you can see the different readers in your environment and how often they're logging into the web portal. So you can get an idea of their consistency as to how often they're logging into the website. Down below the reader section here, we have our user counts, our licenses. So each reader that comes online within, that uses ClearStream RFID needs a license for or subscription to come online here. So I have one device, but I have 5 licenses available. So I can go ahead and configure a total of 5 different readers in my environment, and you would see all of those readers as they come online here. So you can see that device just came online and is now actively connected to the web portal. There's some helpful links down here for training and support. Just a little bit about, before I jump into that reader, a couple different options here. You can, again, configure all of your users within your cloud portal. So if you need to add additional people that would have access into this portal to see the status of the readers, maybe make configuration changes, you can add those users here, add different administrators to your environment. Again, down below, you're just adding all of the readers that you have within your environment that have access to this portal. So you would add each one of them by MAC address here. On the right-hand side, there's actually a link to view logs of the device. So you can go ahead if you're trying to troubleshoot maybe some connectivity issues or some other issues with that reader. You can click this View Logs button here, and it'll show you the logs that are being reported to the web console from ClearStream On-Board. From the Organization tab here, you can just see some details of your organization, how many licenses you have, when your account expires, and things like that. But again, the most important is the dashboard. The dashboard shows you the activity of these readers. You can see now I have one login from this reader that's logged in. I can also now see some additional information for this reader since it's logged into the web console. I can see its image change here to an FX9600. If it happened to be some other type of equipment, it'll show you the image here as to what it is. Maybe it's FX7500 or some other device that you have configured within ClearStream. Down below, 2 new options appear when this device phones home. So I have a View Tags option and a Configure option. View Tags, if I were to click on this, actually shows me all of the tag data that this reader is currently sending to this web console. So I can take tags, place it in front of the antenna, and I'm going to see the tag data that's being recorded by that piece of equipment in this list here. Now, this is just the built-in console that comes with ClearStream On-Board, which will capture all of the tag information, but I'll show you in a minute how you can change where that tag data is going so you can capture it in a third-party system or some other location. So again, right now I have no tags that have been recorded here. The other option that you have is the Configure button here. So all of your readers, once they phone home and connect to the web console, you can configure them using this web console here. So you can make changes from any internet-enabled device for each one of your readers in your environment. So let's jump in here and just make a couple settings changes, and then I'll show you the tags being read. So if I click Configure, it opens up the configuration dialog for this reader here. So right now I don't have a name, I don't have a team that it's configured for, and all of the other settings here are all set to default. So I just actually want to make, just so you can see this in real time, one change here. I'm going to go ahead and name this reader something. Let's call it Demo Reader and hit Save. So I called this now, I made one configuration change, I just gave it a new name. If I jump back over to the dashboard, what you'll notice here is that there's changes pending. So changes pending for this reader means that I've made a configuration change, but they haven't yet been applied to the reader. So it's still, the reader is actually phoning home, and when it detects that it has settings changes, it's going to download those and apply them to the device in real time and do it automatically. So you can make any type of change to these without having to do anything, restart the reader, anything like that. You can make antenna power level changes. You can make the reader name change. You can make different settings changes. Save them using the web portal. The reader will then phone home, download those changes. When they've been applied to the reader, the configuration you'll see here will change to up to date, so that we know those settings that we just applied using this configuration dialog have been applied to the reader. So here you can just see it switch to up to date. I now know that my new demo reader name has been applied to this reader. So just to see, even with the default settings, I'm going to jump over to view tags and scan a couple tags here. I have 3 in my hand that I'm going to take and put over the antenna on this reader. Now it's scanning these tags. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera, so you can't see that, but it's scanning these tags. I'm going to pull them back away. And the way ClearStream On-Board works is it scans those tags, it buffers them on the reader, and based on your settings, it's going to phone home that batch of tags that it scanned to the endpoint that you have configured, and it does it based on a schedule. Now you can increase that schedule so it sends them almost immediately. You can decrease it so it sends them maybe once a day, but it's going to send it based on that schedule. So now if I hit refresh here, I think it's currently set to 15 seconds as default. But those 3 tags now have been reported from that reader that's out in the environment to this web console. So you can see I read 3 tags that happen to start with these values, or these are the EPCs. I can see the MAC address of the device that read the tags. I can see the name that I configured, which is that demo reader. They were read on antenna 1, and they were reported with an event of tag visible, as well as the date timestamp here of when they were read. So this is reporting that the tags were seen. It also records then the RSSI values of how strong that signal was from that reader. So again, I took 3 tags, I placed them in front of the reader here. The reader scanned those tags, buffered them on the reader, and then sent them to the endpoint as long as it had network access back to the this web console here. So a couple things about that. It's very important to note that that's resilient. All tag data is recorded on this. So Tom talked to this point. The tag data is stored locally on the device and batched over to your endpoint, to the cloud console here, or a third-party system that you're sending this tag data to when it has network access. So even if your network's down, maybe you're on a Wi-Fi network at a facility and this reader happens to have some flaky Wi-Fi coverage, the tag data is always being collected locally on the device. So that's going to be a reliable data repository local onto the device, collecting that tag data. And then when that has internet access back to wherever you're sending this tag data, it's going to batch it over. And once it gets a successful indication that it was a successful message that they were batched over successfully to that endpoint, it'll clear that tag data off of the reader. So you can actually let these things run in an environment that might be offline for some extended period of time. It batches the tags on the device. Even if the device were to lose power, it will maintain those tags when you plug it back in. And when you plug it back in, it could come online and then batch over all of the tags that were read while it was in that offline state. So you're not relying on a server-based application that could lose or drop connectivity to your readers. These readers are out in the field working and doing what they're supposed to do. And as long as they have power, they're collecting that critical tag data that's going to make it back to your data repository on the server side when it has access. So you're not going to lose any of that connectivity unless, say, there was a power failure as tag data was moving by. But even if there's a power failure, the tag data that was collected while the reader was running will be stored on the device and batched over when access is back online. So that's a very simple setup there. I just have this tag data getting sent to this this console. You guys will have access if you were to sign up for even a trial of ClearStream On-Board. You have access to this web portal here to see the tag data being batched over into this grid control here, so that you can see it. And just a couple things that are important here. I could actually ship anybody this reader here that I'm configuring, plug it into an Ethernet connection or maybe a Wi-Fi dongle, and the tag data is going to be collected into this account here. So you can pre-configure these readers, ship them to a location, plug them in, and they're collecting tag data. So it's an important point. There's no extra configuration. There's no network configuration. So actually, with a lot of other tools that are server-based, you have to maybe get an IT team involved if you want some reader to be able to be accessible from that server software. But for this, really all you need is to configure the reader using the web dashboard here. Allow that configuration to take effect to the reader, and then really just send this reader wherever it needs to go. And as long as it plugs into some Ethernet connection that has an internet, internet access, or even if it's network access to some internal system, it would batch over your tag data to that location. So let's go back to the configuration to show you some of the other options. Actually, one thing I'd like to note, some people have larger installs here. You can filter these devices to see the statuses of each one of your readers in your environment. Now, this one's green here. If it goes offline, meaning it hasn't phoned home in some length of time, it will indicate that here with an error message saying this reader's offline now, so that you can see that. So you can log in even on your phone to look at this web portal here and see which ones of your readers are online versus offline to try to debug anything that maybe wasn't supposed to be offline. So I'm going to jump back into the configuration tool here again and just talk to some of these other features that we have. So again, I named the reader here Demo Reader 1. I'm going to just, so you can see this take effect, I'm going to go ahead and name it a different thing again. I don't have any teams configured. The teams allow you to logically group readers. So maybe you had Warehouse 1 is a team, Warehouse 2 is another team. You can group those readers into different teams, and that allows you to actually see the data through that, that tag viewer for the teams and the readers separately. The data endpoint section here, this group box for data endpoint. So this is where the tag data is being sent as it's being read by that reader. So the default is this path, this URL. And this is the cloud console for your subscription of ClearStream On-Board. So if you leave this here, or even if you clear this out, it'll go back to the default. But this is the endpoint for that, basically that tag viewer that you saw. When I went to view tags, that's what that's set up to be. But this could be a third-party system. So you could have a web service, maybe a configurable web service on your end, a third-party system that accepts this payload, and you could just change it to that URL. So maybe you have an Amazon web service running, that AWS web service that has some web server running. You can send tag data to that. So you're not sending it directly to our cloud, the subscription cloud here, you're sending it to a third-party system. You can also, and I'm not going to show this today, but you can also have this sent to ClearStream for Windows. So I mentioned before that we do have another ClearStream product that's a server-based software. It's a mapping tool that allows you to map fixed RFID readers to pre-existing systems. You can point this URL to that install of ClearStream, and then that other ClearStream for Windows server software will route the tag data to a third-party system. And that could actually go to a text file, Excel workbook, ODBC databases, SQL Server databases, and things like that. So if you wanted to map it just to something like that, you can use our ClearStream for Windows product. I'm going to leave this as a default today, just so you guys can see the tag data coming over in that View Data tab there. Immediately to the right of that, we have a send interval. So this allows you to, or this tells the reader how often it should be sending its tag data to that endpoint. I'm going to reduce this a little bit just to have it send faster. I'll go down to 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. So this will send the tag data as it's being collected on the reader every 5 seconds if it has tag data to that endpoint. You could also reduce this once a day if you wanted to send it. You can go ahead and set those types of intervals. You can adjust the maximum send count. So if you're going to a third-party system that maybe can't handle 10,000 tags at a time, you can reduce it so that it just sends, say, in batches of 200. So if the reader is offline for some extended period of time collecting tag data, you can have it batch over 200 tags at a time, which is the default here. Some of these other settings here, you can do data conversion. You can convert EPC values to ASCII here, or user memory banks to ASCII. So if your RFID tags have user encoded data in the user bank, you can collect that tag data or that data and convert it to ASCII. You can add HTTP headers to this endpoint. So the endpoint is an HTTP web service. If you have a third-party API or tool that requires some additional headers, you can add them here using these key and value pairs. So if you had maybe an API token or key, you can go ahead and add that here so that you can connect with that API to send the tag data. Immediately below that, we have the scan mode. So this is how often and for how long the reader is scanning for tags. The most common setup here is just continuous, always scan tags, as long as there's tags within the range of the antenna. But you can set up a GPI or input triggers, so you can have a motion sensor, something like that, turn the reader on, or periodically you can turn the reader on. Maybe you have this reader set up in a stock room. You want to scan for a minute every day. You can go ahead and set that to be periodic. And you can also have it report tied in with this one, the user memory bank, if you want to get user memory bank data off of the reader. Below that, we have the tag events. So Tom briefly mentioned this feature here. This allows you to determine what events are reported to the endpoint. So all I had before was report tag visible, which is this tag visible event before, but let's just say I want to actually report when the tag's no longer visible. And I also want to report it again as new visible, only after not visible. So what this allows me to do is say when a tag comes in front of that reader or that antenna, it's reported as a new tag visible event to our endpoint. If we then pull it away for 10 seconds, it's going to be reported to the endpoint as no longer visible. And we can change what those values are. So I can say tag scanned and tag missing. So these are the events that are going to be reported to that endpoint. And I'll show you this in a second once I make these changes. But this allows you to say, when a tag is scanned by that reader, tell me about it at my endpoint. If this tag goes away, also tell me about that. So I can get a date timestamp of when this tag showed up and when it left from that reader. Immediately below that, we have, this is one of the new features that will be updated on our website, but these tag data filters. So the tag data filters allows you to define a whole bunch of different filters for your tag data. So you're only capturing the tags that you want in your environment. So the most common here would obviously be the EPC value, because we want to filter only to EPCs that we're looking for. And I'm just going to say, just to show you the feature, I'm going to say starts with 4 zeros. So you saw that those tags before, the 3 that I had, all started with zeros. This will define that those are the only tags I can scan. If a tag comes into the antenna that maybe starts with ABC, it won't be reported to the endpoint. That tag will be ignored. Now you can add multiple filters here. So you could do something like also the peak RSSI, the signal strength indicator, needs to be greater than or equal to -40. So this would tell it, don't report the tags that are like kind of weak signals or away from that antenna. We only want the strong ones. We want the ones that are very closely nearby this antenna. But you can define a whole bunch of different filters here for your environment. Immediately below that, we have our antenna settings. So you can name your antennas. So you can see that one was antenna 1 before. I'm going to call this portal 100. But this will report what antenna scanned the tag. You can also change the power levels for how strong this antenna is transmitting. I'm going to leave this at a low power again because we have a lot of tags around here. And I just want to pick up these ones that I have configured next to me. So I'm going to leave that power level down low, but you can go ahead and change this as needed. It's probably more commonly a high power setting, but if you want like a contact scan almost for these antennas, you can put it down to 10 dBm. Session, this defines the tag session that's being used for scanning. Just really quickly, session 0 is going to be the most tag data for the same tag. Session 1 will be a little bit less than that, and session 2 and 3 should really report the tag only once while it's sitting in front of the antenna. The default is session 1, which is most commonly used, so I'll go ahead and leave that there. Down below that, we have a general purpose output group. So this is where you can configure lights or buzzers or things to be powered on by this reader. So if I wanted to maybe power on a buzzer on port 1 for every tag read event, I can do that. So I can say every time a tag is read, I'm going to power up port 1, which happens to be a buzzer, and I'm going to buzz for 1 second, 1,000 milliseconds here, so that it sounds some notification when a tag comes by. I'll go ahead and turn that off for now. Finally, down below is just reader management. So one thing that Tom briefly mentioned, we do have OTA capability with ClearStream On-Board. So if you have a number of readers out in your environment that are running ClearStream On-Board and you want to take advantage of the most recent, the newest, the latest and greatest features, you can do an over-the-air update of the application. So even if you've already shipped these devices to remote locations, you can push out ClearStream RFID On-Board updates. To do that, you do need to set the username and password on the device. For Zebra readers, it happens to be admin and change. But I won't go ahead and set that today. But you would want to fill out those settings there if you're doing OTA updates on the reader. So I'm going to go ahead and save this this project. So again, I have some filters set up here. EPC hex starts with 000, and the peak RSSI has to be greater than 40. I'm going to actually remove the peak RSSI because I do want the tag no longer event being sent to the endpoint as well. So I'll go ahead and save this. Now again, if I jump back over to the dashboard, there are going to be pending changes pending for this reader. So right now I know the reader has yet to phone home. It has yet to download and change the configuration on the reader, but it'll be working on that because it's going to see these changes being made to it. So again, if you have this reader already installed in a remote location at your, a remote site or out on a Wi-Fi network already installed in, wherever it might be, the portal, you can make changes here, and then that's going to be applied immediately to the, or not immediately to that reader, but once it phones home, and once it phones home and makes those changes, the configuration here will be switched to up to date. At that point, the reader has applied the latest settings changes that you've applied through the web console, and then you can go ahead and test those changes here. So this reader, there it goes, it just switched to up to date. So I know that those settings, like the name and even the antenna name that I applied, have now all taken effect on that reader. If I go to view tags here, I still have the 3 before. I'm going to switch this to the last 1 minute. I only want to see the tags from the last 1 minute for this reader. I'll go ahead and take my same 3 tags. I'm going to put them in front of that antenna, and now let me refresh this. I think I changed this to a 5-second interval. So approximately after 5 seconds, it should send these tags over to the data endpoint once it scans those tags. There they are. And now you can see some of the settings changes that took effect here. I gave it a new name for that reader, so I can see these 3 tags were read by Warehouse 1 reader. And then you can see the antenna was portal 100. So you might be able to spread the antennas out amongst different portals or different locations. You can go ahead and name them appropriately. You can also see here that the tag event was changed to tag scanned because I had changed that tag visible event. So I know that at 1:10 on January 10th, 2023, this tag was scanned at this time. So that was the event that was recorded for this tag. And then here's my RSSIs. I can also now refresh this data, and you'll notice here that it's actually sent 3 additional events over because I also told it to now report when a tag is no longer visible to my endpoint. So I have 6 events now for these 3 tags. You can see the 3 tags here that event that happened. So I can tell now from my data that at this particular time the tag was scanned, and then at this time they went missing. So I get those 2 timestamps of when the tag data, of when that tag first came in front of this reader, and then when it went away. So I'm controlling this tag data and telling the endpoint what data I want to see for these devices out in the facility. Okay, so any changes I make to the data, you can come, or to the configuration of those readers, you can come back here and just take a look at what it looks like once you finish up the configuration changes. So I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys today for ClearStream On-Board. I hope this all makes sense to you, but I did configure this one warehouse reader. Again, it's just got an internet connection back to this web portal, and it's reporting data to the subscriptions.clearstreamrfid.com site here so I can see that tag data. And again, I could ship this to anywhere in the world as long as someone plugs it into an Ethernet connection that has internet access. It will come online and start sending tag data to this location. So I think with that, I will jump back over or see if there's any questions. If you can bear with me, I want to bring up the question panel here. First question, I do see that there's a couple of them. Is this webinar being recorded? Yes, we are recording this webinar, so you guys can take a look afterwards. We'll usually post these to our website and to our YouTube channel. So if you do download the trial, sign up for the trial, you can go ahead and take a look at and review the webinar, kind of follow along if you'd like to see these settings changes made on a reader on your side. Okay, so I have a question here that just came in. Can ClearStream connect to PLCs? So ClearStream has a couple different connection points depending on your PLC. Really, the one endpoint that you configure within the configurations are the data endpoint. And that only currently supports a URL or an HTTP web service where you're sending this tag data. For PLCs, you can control the outputs on the GPO outputs on the device based on activity that you have within the reader. So if I jump back over to the configuration tool here, you can power up the different ports for, and let me hit edit so I can bring open this list. You can power up the different ports that are available on this, and you can wire up like a 24-volt device or 5-volt signal to the GPO block on the FX9600 and FX7500, and you can send signals to that based on some of this. Unfortunately, it's just a signal for, say, something like a tag read. So you could raise a 5-volt signal to something else based on a tag read. Some of these other things I don't think we really would be driving, you wouldn't be driving a PLC with, such as subscription server connected or disconnected, data endpoint connected or disconnected. But if you wanted to do something like just simply signal a PLC or some other device, maybe a diverter, you could do that maybe based on a tag read. So tag read event occurs, or you could even do no tag read during inventory. Actually, this might be useful in this case. If you power up the reader, maybe based on motion as a package comes down a conveyor, the reader can be configured to scan for some number of seconds. If you don't see a tag within that number of seconds, you could maybe fire this signal on one of these GPOs, a 5-volt signal, to some type of diverter that would be able to push the package off because you hadn't got a tag scan on that. So maybe a verification process that the package has an RFID tag. So that might be what that would be kind of useful for in that case. But some of these other events here, for definitely to drive a PLC, I don't think would be too useful. But they would be able to show you, maybe if your data endpoint is disconnected, you can put a red light on. If you have a light stack connected to one of these FX, like a 9600, you could power up a red light so that somebody looking at this FX9600 could see that there's some error, and you would immediately know, oh, the data endpoint has been disconnected. It's not sending tag data to my endpoint. If you have elaborate on that question or have any specifics to it, please send it over. Okay, somewhat of a follow-up to that. Instead of directly to a PLC, can we connect to edge gateways? You might want to follow up with this on this question here as to what type of edge gateway maybe you're referring to. Again, the only real signaling that we can do from ClearStream On-Board currently is using the GPO block or GPIO block on these FX9600s and 7500s to signal something when one of these events occurs. So there's specific data you might need to send over to a gateway. You might want to send us some details on that. We can take a look. If it was some type of gateway that accepts a web service type post, we could probably do that with ClearStream On-Board. Question here about which impinged gateways or readers are you looking to support with the ClearStream On-Board application? Yeah, Tom had brought up that we are going to be releasing support for the impinge readers for ClearStream On-Board. The first release for that will support their latest device, the R700. So you'll be able to install the application just as you see here, just using their web utility for ClearStream On-Board onto the R700 device. And then when it comes online within ClearStream On-Board, the web portal, you'll see that device appear there, and you'll be able to configure all of the settings that you have as you do with, say, the 7500 and the 9600s from Zebra. So that's really what we're looking to build out, more support for different devices, so you're not locked into a particular manufacturer. With ClearStream On-Board, you can use both the Zebra devices and then going forward, the Impinj R700, and then we'll kind of see about adding support for their Speedway devices, which are their older devices, but for the initial release, we'll be supporting the R700. Question here is, the data you send to the endpoint, is it in JSON format? Yep, so the data that comes over in a simple JSON payload. You could actually use like a web service endpoint just to see that data coming over. And it really comes over just as an array of tag data with all of the information for each tag. So that includes the EPC, whether or not you're using the user memory bank, the reader that scanned that tag, antenna names, and so on, as well as then a date timestamp of when all of those tags were recorded. But it comes over, yes, in a JSON as a JSON post to your web service endpoint. Good question. Okay, I don't see any other questions here, but feel free to keep sending them over if you guys have anything.
All right, Howie, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for all the questions, and very good session. So we appreciate it, and we're coming up on our time here, but wanted to be sure and number one, just thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come visit us, and number of ways to reach back out to us. Number one, obviously, reach out, sales@clearstreamrfid.com. Phone numbers there. Feel free to give us a call as well. We also, very unique service that we provide here at PTS is we call it Open Office. And Open Office is really every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's I like to say it's a tech session. It's access to developers and really ask detailed configuration questions, detailed product questions, how to. And so encourage you as whether you're a current customer or you download the trial, it's open to both sets of users. We can share stories across the community, but really gets into the weeds on how do you solve a very specific problem. So we encourage you as you download the product and use the trial, take advantage of these open office hours and be able to come in and be able to work with us and on particular challenges that you're facing, as well as ways we can help you solve those. Okay. So with that, we'll let you all get back to the rest of your day. And once again, thanks so much and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for joining the webinar today. Look forward to seeing you on a future one.